Antonio.
Let's go.
He sits by Reedy.
Senator Hettleman, the reusable tenant screening report. Senator.
Now streaming.
Hello, everyone. I'm Corey McCray, Senator for the 45th Legislative District. I have the honor of chairing the Baltimore City Senate delegation. Just want to say thank you for joining us for our delegation's weekly virtual grassroots briefing. Before we get started, I'd at least like to acknowledge our colleagues that are here with us today. I'm going to start in order by legislative district. We're joined by Antonio Hayes from the 40th Legislative District, and who will also be tonight's moderator. We're also joined by Senator Jill Carter from the 41st Legislative District. We're joined by Senator Mary Washington from the 43rd Legislative District, and I believe that Senator Sidnall will be joining us momentarily. Over the course of the 2021 legislative session, the delegation has had the opportunity to hold briefings on education, health, housing security, and how the COVID-19 pandemic has impacted small businesses in our universities. As we transition into the spring, one of the annual staple events many of us look forward to is the Preakness Stakes. Preakness is set to return for its spring meet and Pimlico race course, I believe, on May 15th. Tell me if I'm wrong. We were victorious in keeping Preakness, which has an economic impact of millions of dollars in Baltimore City, in the Baltimore region. Considering the work conducted to do so, we thought it appropriate to provide a status update on the Pimlico race course and the Preakness Stakes and its impact on the Park Heights community. Our colleague, Senator Hayes, has been a strong champion, and I would also like to echo Senator Jill Carter, repeat that, Senator Jill Carter has also both been strong champions of Pimlico, advocating for its redevelopment while making sure that community revitalization was at the forefront of development plans. Recognizing this, Senator Hayes will moderate tonight's briefing. Senator Hayes, I turn it over to you.
Excellent. And thank you, Chair McCray, for this opportunity. One of the things that this Baltimore City Senate delegation has done this year under Senator McCray's leadership is provide an opportunity in what we call these Monday evening grassroots briefing. And when he came to me and asked me if there was a topic that we wanted to cover, of course, because of the labor that we provided over the last couple of years as it relates to Pimlico Racetrack and the significance that the Park Heights community provide to all of us, not just in Baltimore, but the significance we provide internationally in the Preakness Stakes, I thought it most fitting that we have the panelists that we have here today. And so last year, as you all know, after 2 years of wrangling and negotiating, we were successful at finalizing a piece of legislation that would shepherd and facilitate an opportunity to keep Preakness in Baltimore, while also having the Pimlico Racetrack grounds provide as a stimulus to much needed redevelopment in the Park Heights community. And so the presenters that we have this evening will give us an update on where we are today. You know, sometimes we pass legislation and we celebrate, but there is a lot more work to do once that legislation goes into effect. And so we want to provide the community with an update on where we are. And the very first panelist that we will have speak is no stranger to the Baltimore community. The Honorable William Cole, formerly serving as the Executive Director of Baltimore Development Corporation. And at some point, long time ago in his life, when I was just a youngster serving as an intern, represented this distinguished body in the Maryland General Assembly and the Maryland House of Delegates. And so with that, I'll turn it over to Bill Cole.
Senator, thank you. And again, my profound thanks to the City Senate delegation for without your assistance, we would not be here today. You stuck with us for 2 years in Annapolis to get us to the critical point where we were able to make the deal we made last session. And without your assistance, we would not have prevailed. You know, the hard work of the fight that we had, the city fought for years to keep the Preakness at Pimlico, is thankfully over. We're all on the same side of the table now, working alongside with the Maryland Jockey Club the city of Baltimore and even Anne Arundel County, because this deal requires a huge improvement also at Laurel Racecourse in order to make the Pimlico solution work. And just to refresh everybody's memory, the grand solution was a complete revitalization of Pimlico Racecourse as primarily a marquee racing event facility for the Preakness Stakes. And if we're lucky at some point down the road, perhaps a Breeders' Cup, but a community amenity the rest of the year. As we know right now, Pimlico sits empty except for the horses that train there. Outside of the 12-ish days a year that the Pimlico meet, the Preakness meet happens, it pretty much is a dormant facility. Under the new plan, the Maryland Stadium Authority is starting the hard work of completely renovating Pimlico Racecourse as this new modern community and events facility that will host the Preakness Stakes annually. And that hard work started with MSA going out to bid for architects and engineers. And I'll let Mike and his team explain where they are in the process. But we're now turning over the keys to the project to MSA. And I think the senators on the line know that there is no better organization in the state of Maryland to handle this project than MSA. They have demonstrated time and again with taxpayer funds that they are unparalleled and the most qualified organization you can possibly put in charge of this. So we're very confident that we're going to get a high quality product out of this. And what are we going to end up with? A transformational project that truly connects the race course to the surrounding communities, and most notably Park Heights. And you'll hear later from my dear friend Yolanda Jiggets, who is right in the heart of it. But this project will inject $200 million of state money into the Park Heights community and will generate hundreds of millions more in additional investment between what LifeBridge is doing to the east of the track and the 40 acres of private development that will happen around the track. So I'm very excited to kick this off today, Senator Hayes. Thank you again for your leadership. It clearly is a once in a lifetime opportunity. I've been thrilled to participate in this project, but this is transformational development in Park Heights. And I think everybody on this call is excited about the future of Pimlico in Park Heights and how this connects in a very real way to job creation and economic enhancements in that community. So thank you.
Excellent, and thank you. And just a tad bit of record keeping, because we are in a tight schedule, I was going to hold off onto questions until all of our presenters had to speak. But if any senator feels so inclined, they should raise their hand, interject, or give us a signal to jump in. But without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Michael Fritz, the Executive Director of the Maryland Stadium Authority. You heard Bill Cole talk very highly about the reputation that the Stadium Authority holds, not only in managing our major sports arenas here in the state, but also doing an exceptional job at managing construction projects on time and on budget. And so we're very fortunate to have them as a partner to see the transition of Pimlico Racetrack. And without further ado, Mr. Fritz.
Thank you, Senator Hayes. I'm delighted to be here before the Baltimore Senate delegation. Gary McGuigan, whom you all know, is here. Gary and his team are the best in the business. Gary and his team, they're the ones responsible for MSA's great reputation for on-time, on-budget project delivery. And, as you know, the Racing and Community Development Act of 2020 allocated $375 million for Pimlico and Laurel, with a minimum of $180 million for Pimlico, where the Stadium Authority will design, finance, and build both racetracks. And at Pimlico, we will also operate and manage it on a year-round basis. The track will be rented to the Jockey Club for the Pimlico for a period of time in and around the race day. The design challenge really is to create a world-class racing facility that is also a first-class facility for paid events and community events. So I think it's important in design that it needs to be open to the public so it doesn't unduly impede development in the parcels that Bill was talking about that are controlled by BDC. In February, as Bill said, we awarded a architectural engineering services contract to Ayers St. Gross, whose team also included Populous. Populous did the original study where they sort of had a concept for an ideal Pimlico venue, populace in really in the form of Todd Growler and his equine facilities group headquartered in Norman, Oklahoma, they're the foremost equine facility design group in the world, probably. They did equine facilities for the Olympics in China, in London, and they really are top notch. That architect engineering services contract included 33% goal for MBE, with sub goals of 7% for African American firms and 10% for women. The design work is expected to take 2 years, and the project construction will be sequenced in a fashion that will allow the Preakness to remain at Pimlico during that construction period. We also recently posted an RFP for pre-construction management services. We like to have the construction manager work with the architect engineer in order to ensure constructability and avoid problems during the construction phase. And we expect to award that in June of this year. And that is expected to have a 29% MBE goal with sub goals of 8% African American and 11% women. We recognize the importance of community engagement and transparency. So the AE team includes community action partners in order to perform community engagements. If you remember, our experience in the 21st century schools will really help with community engagement with respect to program and design issues. Similarly, it will help with hiring city residents. We worked in the 21st Century Schools program with the Mayor's Office of Employment Development. And as we reported in the 2018 annual report, I don't have the most recent figures in front of me, but we had 283 position commitments for the year one schools in that program. And as of July of 2019, 569 Baltimore City residents were hired to fill 711 new jobs. And job retention was also a priority. So of the 569 local residents hired, 142 worked on multiple job sites or with multiple contractors. And out of the 861.8 million contracted within the program at the time, we had 34.6% MBE participation. So, Gary's group has professionals devoted to making sure that we hire as many city residents can be hired as possible, and that we meet the MBE goals. We're really serious about those things, and an infrastructure has been set in place to take care of those things.
Excellent.
And Gary is here to answer any questions that I can't, because he's really the expert on all these things.
No problem. We'll definitely get to questions later on. But next, I wanted to present Mr. Michael Johansen. Michael is a government relations representative of the Maryland Jockey Club. The Maryland Jockey Club has, owned the property and in the Park Heights community as well as Laurel for a number of years. And without their commitment and help and partnership with the City of Baltimore, the Stadium Authority, and all those that had to play a role in this, this would not be the transformational project and opportunity for this community that we sought in a long time. And so, Mike.
Thank you so much, Senator Hayes. First, I want to thank all the senators on this call and all the other representatives of the City of Baltimore, the Mayor's Office, council members, even the House of Delegates who aren't with us this evening, because without the support, this bill would not have passed last year. It was basically 1 year and 1 week ago that this legislation was finalized, and truly an historic event. It's transformational, not just for the City of Baltimore, but for the entire racing industry throughout the state of Maryland. The Maryland Thoroughbred Horsemen, the breeders, all supported this legislation, even contributing critical dollars to the amount of funds necessary to pay for the bonds that will be issued by the Maryland Stadium Authority. As the project moves ahead, and we're very grateful for the work of the Stadium Authority and the city officials that are engaged, it's a project where our role at Pimlico will change. I think Mr. Friends said it correctly. we're going to become a tenant on a property that we used to own. We're going to be donating the entire parcel to the state of Maryland and the city of Baltimore. And the activity that's going to occur on the out parcels and economic development really isn't anything under our control, but we know it's going to be guided well by the city officials who are going to make it a very vibrant area. And the piece of the land where the racing facility and community center will sit is something that we look forward to using to make sure the Preakness will become the top tier jewel of the Triple Crown races. And then, you know, on an ongoing basis for 10 months of the year, we're going to maintain a presence at the Pimlico site. We hope to have a very vibrant kind of restaurant food service offering where we'll maintain our OTB betting. We do have racing fans throughout the year who want to go to Pimlico. Laurel's not far away, but they want to go to Pimlico. That's where they'd rather be to watch horse racing, even if it's simulcast racing. And depending on what happens in Annapolis this year, we would hope that that same venue would be able to host sports wagering as well. So the same type of activity we've carried on, just in a smaller piece of the building, and we will coexist with the other types of amenities that the city and the stadium authority, as they, you know, kind of become the managing partner in all this, the other amenities that they would anticipate bringing in. So we are very excited to be in this position. We are bringing live racing back to Pimlico on May 13th. That's Thursday, 2 days before Preakness Day on May 15th. We just announced we're going to have a limited crowd, perhaps about 10,000 attendees. It's well within the limits that the city set out for us, and we're working with them on all the safety measures and health measures. And, you know, we will run live racing at Pimlico through Memorial Day, and then it will, you know, go to Laurel and then out to the State Fairgrounds in August. So very excited to be in a position where we are again feeling part of a project where everybody's in agreement, and that's a very comfortable role to be in. And we really appreciate the support from all the elected officials and community members and everybody else who voiced support for the project. Thank you, Sen.
Absolutely, and thank you, Mike. Next, we're going to hear from Ms. Yolanda Jiggets, the Executive Director of Park Heights Renaissance. She's not only working in Park Heights, but also at some point called Park Heights home. And so she's a native of that community and been working really hard with the residents there. One of the greatest successes that this delegation was able to pull off last year, for over the life of the impact fees, a lot of the money had been really to, you know, in some cases, supplant city services that are offered to the Park Heights community. And we were able to cipher off a portion of that to make sure that we stood up a community-based organization to build capacity and facilitate a lot of the progress that we want to make there in Park Heights. So without further ado, I turn it over to the Executive Director of Park Heights Renaissance, Yolanda Jiggets. You're on mute. You're on mute, Yolanda.
My apologies. I was saying thank you, Senator Hayes, for the overview. And yes, I am born and raised in Park Heights. So this is a special project and special time to come work at Park Heights Renaissance. And just want to, I have a slideshow, but I'm going to just quickly run through this. But as many of you know, Park Heights Renaissance was actually created out of a recommendation from the Park Heights Master Plan. Some of our services and programs are listed here. And more importantly, I wanted to really make sure to emphasize the master plan is really what mapped the way for redevelopment in Park Heights. This was adopted, as we all know, many, many years ago, 2006. And you can see that the Pimlico is a long overdue development project. And we are very proud to have been at the table last year in support of the project. But I also want to emphasize that there is much to be done to ensure other development is ongoing as a complement and not an afterthought to the Pimlico redevelopment strategies. I emphasize this as much as I can, and I'll keep saying it. Park Heights is the largest urban renewal project in Maryland. We have a diverse community with over 30,000 residents and over 100 businesses and faith institutions. The one caveat for the redevelopment project for the Pimlico is that Park Heights as a community loses $3.5 million annually through fiscal year 32 to support this project. And it does have some significant impacts on other capital projects, such as construction of a new library for our children in Park Heights. I also want to highlight that Park Heights, again, is such a large community. And in support of this project, there has to be lots of complementary actions going at the same time. So Park Heights Renaissance is working to complement this project. We're working to map out marketing strategies to highlight the many assets that we have here in Park Heights and garnering new partnerships every day to draw greater developer interest as much as we can. We've been reaching out to contractors and investors continuously and building a network of qualified minority contractors who are very interested in supporting Park Heights development in general, but even more excited about the opportunities ahead for minority and women-owned businesses with the Pimlico redevelopment. And as I said, partnerships are the key to this community development strategy. Park Heights Renaissance is also doing its part by partnering or leading projects that will bring over 400 units of diverse housing opportunities to the community. Some of these are Cold Spring Lane project, which will be a transit-oriented design project. Hopefully, groundbreaking will be winter of 2021, and that will bring another 160 plus units of housing to Park Heights. In addition, we are proud to have had a groundbreaking for Renaissance Row back in September, which will bring another 84 units of housing to residents in Park Heights and hopefully also attracting new residents. And will be the new home of Park Heights Renaissance. We're so excited about that. So this is just, just a glimpse of, some of the work that we are doing, and there is a lot of other development going on in Park Heights as well, some of which are Park West Health System expansion. Manna Bible is also leading a housing and workforce project that will be right across the street from the Pimlico on West Belvedere. Gillis Memorial is undertaking a project in Southern Park Heights. And of course, we're all excited about the award of the 17 acres in the major redevelopment area. For us and the housing department, Park Circle, I'm sure Senator Hayes will be happy, will be the next target area that we work on for redevelopment as well. So all in all, I just want to say we are excited to be on the ground, ensuring the community's voice is heard and represented during this process. As we advocate, as we support and celebrate the Pimlico redevelopment, I do want to still advocate for much more needed capital investment dollars to support the work we're doing with drawing developer interest to the community. And we really want to be sure that we are in position and have the capacity to actually take action on this interest that we're drawing to the community. So thank you all tonight. I look forward to being continued partners, and we look forward to actually working towards bringing the capital dollars that are needed to complement the Pimlico redevelopment.
Absolutely, and thank you, Yolanda. Next, we will hear from our last presenter before we open it up to questions from our senators in the panel here today. Our next presenter will be Chris Ryer. They actually have Christopher in parentheses Chris Ryer. I've never heard anyone refer to him before.
Never been done, yeah.
Right. But Chris Ryer is the director of Baltimore City Department of Planning. In that role, statutorily, he also served as the chair of the Pimlico Community Development Authority, which oversees a lot of the impact funding that's coming and work in close partnership with Park Heights Renaissance. But the benefit of having Chris lead our planning department and be a part of this effort is that he has a higher level of view of what's happening with the work that he's done along with the Baltimore City Department of Housing in their framework document to really identify how we build off of strengths and, and have an effect on communities. Park Heights area has been designated one of those such priority areas for funding opportunities, bringing all of the various funding sources to be prioritized and how we go about community development. And so without further ado, I'll introduce to you Director Ryer.
Yeah, thank you, Senator. One of the unusual aspects of this job is that I chair the PCDA. For a little history lesson that goes back about 15 years, about the same time the racetrack legislation was going through, the Department of Planning for the city was doing the original Park Heights Master Plan. So a lot of the funding generated by the legislation ended up implementing pieces of the Park Heights Master Plan. And I think I'm very glad to say that 15 years later, we've accomplished a monumental task in assembling 60 acres of land in Park Heights, assembling, clearing, and preparing for development, 60 acres. I know it takes a long time to do these things, but it's a major transformational effort. I've only been here 2 years in this position, as Senator Hayes said. I have a community development background, so this is a really interesting time in Park Heights because now we have switched the role of PCDA and we have empowered Park Heights Renaissance and we have financed the renovation of the track. So we have three major things lining up at once. One is 60 acres of clear land owned by and controlled by the city of Baltimore. Two is a well-financed, well-led community development organization named Park Heights Renaissance. And three is a plan and the financing in place to renovate the racetrack. So this year, last year, the money amount changed that PCDA oversees. Historically, I would say it was in the realm of $8 million a year. Last year, that was cut in half by COVID. This year, our projections are that those funds will be largely back. However, they are split differently. So instead of PCDA allocating $8 million, there's a three-way split between the racetrack at $3.5 million, Park Heights Renaissance at 2.4, and PCDA at 1.6. I'm afraid if I try to share my screen, I'll screw it up. But so what I thought I would do is just briefly summarize what the PCDA funds will be going for this year in Park Heights, and touch on some of the things Yolanda was said. So the cycle, there's an annual cycle because the PCDA budget is incorporated into the city budget. And we are almost through that cycle. In fact, 2 days from now, on Wednesday, we go back to the community, hold a public meeting on the final recommendations of PCDA to the mayor for his budget. And I'm happy to say that the recommendations, PCDA, I guess none of the recommendations changed. After all the public comments, the PCDA agreed with all the prior commitments made, which I can go through in the previous public meetings. The only exception was a change to the what's called the 1 mile radius, which is the area outside of the Park Heights community. Now, the commitments made with the reduced funding, I think the community and PCDA felt like this was a year to try to finish things up. So the largest chunk of money went to the C.C. Jackson Park construction, the completion of that, and the second and fourth largest amounts of money went to 2 other recreation centers to finish off funding for those. And then the third largest was a very popular program that we pioneered through the Inspire program, where we allocate homeownership repair grants to a targeted geographic area. And that has moved around as we satisfied the need. As I said, it started with 2 Inspire schools. This year, we switched it to the Towanda Grantley community, partially because we are completely renovating a recreation center right there. So we're trying to cluster our capital investments to make an impact on a specific area. We also have a number of smaller ones, one of which is a public art one, also targeted to Towanda, and there are other Inspire pedestrian improvements, public safety, those types of things. So in closing, I want to say we're coordinating very closely with Park Heights Renaissance. Again, at the suggestion of Senator Hayes, we're implementing a quarterly meeting to sort of monitor progress during the year. So we have one set for June of this year. We'll have another one set towards the end of the summer, and then we'll go back into the fiscal year 23 cycle again in the fall. So I think that's it.
Absolutely. And thank you, Chris. At this time, with about 12 minutes left, I want to open it up to those senators who may have a question. And I will start with our chairman, Senator McCray.
Thank you, Senator Hayes. I guess my question is in reference to 2 questions. One of them is if you could speak to who will own the land that the Jockey Club donates. I'm not sure if I heard that in any of the presentations. And also just MB, how does that have a role in reference to the development? If you could speak to MBE is what I'm saying. Whoever wants to take that question.
Sure, I can start, and then if I miss anything on the actual track piece, Mike Friends or Gary can jump in. So under the current construct, there's about 100 acres. Remember that LifeBridge Health acquired the 20 acres east of the track now back in 2013. I think, Mike Johansen, is that right? Around 2012, 2013. So the 20 acres to the east of the track has already been acquired. It's the 100 acres that are remaining that we're talking about here for this project. Of those 100 acres, about 60 acres are needed to recreate the Pimlico racetrack. That will include the racing ovals, new, smaller but modern clubhouse facility, the parkland in the infield, plus all of the territory and area necessary for the Maryland Jockey Club to successfully run and operate a Preakness Stakes. The Jockey Club will not own that. It will be a new ownership entity that we're working through right now in order to comply with the federal tax code. But that will be a public entity, a public body that owns that 60 acres. The 40 acres, the development sites around the track, so the roughly 25 acres north of the track and the 15 acres south of the track, will be contributed to an entity that likely will be controlled by BDC and then will be put out for public bid, just like any other public offering through BDC is. So they'll put out a call for responses and they'll go through a public bidding process. And I think the delegation knows how that works. There are certainly MBE requirements on anything that BDC does. And there are statutory requirements that everything that the Maryland Stadium Authority is doing on the 60 acres. So Mike, do you want to pick up there, or Gary, can you speak to the MBE requirements?
Yeah, Gary, why don't you talk about that?
Okay, thanks, Mike. Yeah, it depends on the service that is being provided. And we will follow the state MBE law. But just as an example, when we went out for architectural engineering services, we established a 33% goal as opposed to the state minimum of 29%. So every service that we engage, we'll have a review and we'll have an MBE percentage established.
No, thank you. Mr. Chair, did you have any additional questions? All right, excellent. Senator Carter, Senator Washington, did you all have any questions?
Thank you, Mr. Presiding Chair, I suppose. I apologize for missing most of it, so if you've covered it, I'm sorry, but so I just caught the tail end of the MBE, and so I just want to make a comment and then a question. One, I'd like to see us strive to go higher and better than the minimum MBE goals and actively seek minority participation, even beyond MBEs, but primary whenever possible. And I'd love to work with whoever I need to work with to try to make that happen. And so that's my comment. And my question part is, would that be okay? And can we make that happen? And then my second question. Okay.
That's fine with me, Senator.
Thank you. My second question is, what process is being used to notify and advise residents of what is to come and what opportunities might be available in terms of employment, but also even these minority business opportunities, small business opportunities that might be coming up?
A great question. And I mean, Gary, you want to talk about the MSA Outreach Plan and the fact that the Air St. Gross and Populous team have engaged a community outreach team as well?
Sure, thanks, Bill. Yeah, when we engage the architect and their team, they probably have 20, 25 sub-consultants, and one of their main sub-consultants is for community engagement. And we've had 2 meetings with them already. We're getting the structure on how to engage the community, but I would think it would be pretty extensive. I feel very comfortable with the team that we have. And it's not going to be in the next few weeks, but it's not going to be, in the next month or 2, I expect to reach out to the community with our team and start getting input. I would also add that from the workforce development side, we have an internal department that was created from the Baltimore City Schools program who's done an excellent job. And we're going to utilize that team for workforce development also.
Great. And I'm presuming that part of the team will ultimately at some point include residents to help engage with the outreach.
Absolutely. So
Yeah, definitely. Oh, go ahead, Yolanda.
I'll just add to what Gary just explained. We are also working very hard, and that's why I raised my hand when you said, who can you work with? We definitely welcome the support. We have begun to reach out to minority contractors and build a list and a screening of those. And we're looking forward to, providing more information to them. We have met with the marketing team at the Stronach Group. We're excited to be in early discussions with them. So that will be another way that we will work to ensure that the community is involved. And last but not least, don't forget that we will be, as a part of the Pimlico redevelopment strategy last year, we also ensured that there was a community compact agreement signed by the mayor, BDC, MSA, PHR, to really show a commitment to making sure the community's voice is heard along the way and throughout the development process. So we're working now to bring that advisory board together and provide them support. And really, we want to provide them technical assistance and really not only being involved in the Pimlico redevelopment, but all development strategies in Park Heights and how getting their voices at the table about how best to inform and do outreach and engage the community as well.
And if I could add, before the next question very quickly, we've had 2 MBE outreaches, one on the design side and one on the construction side, which have been very successful. So it's something that we take very, very seriously. Thank you.
Thank you.
There were 3 minority contractors on site for the site visit for the RFP that I think Michael mentioned, which is the first phase for the construction management team. So they are getting the word out and spreading the word to one another as well. So there's much more to do, as you mentioned, Senator Carter, but I wanted to let you know some of those things that have started.
All right. And so with that, we had 3 minutes left, and I wanted to leave our chairman with 2 minutes to close us out. So we will do that this evening and finish by 6:45. I just want to echo what Senator Carter said. Obviously, the racetrack itself is directly in Senator Carter's district. Us know her as the champion for justice in the state of Maryland. But, part of her start and call to politics was really around her advocacy for minority contractors. And so I would just, again, say it's really, really important as you guys embark upon each step in this progress to making this project real. I know you guys are going to be reaching out to the community and those that are entities of the compact, but it will be so vital to us as a delegation that we consistently get updates as you go along and use us as partners and try to attract others to this progress. And so I just wanted to thank you all for finding that robbery of your time and come join us this evening, but we will continue this dialogue in the future. And with that, I'll turn it over to Senator McCray with 2 minutes to spare. You're on mute, Corey. I'm Senator McCray.
Got it. Gets us every time. Thank you, Senator Hayes, and thank you to each of tonight's panelists for joining us and providing insight into the status of our Pimlico's Racecourse and Preakness. We look forward to seeing who's awarded the Triple Crown. Thank you, Senator Hayes, for moderating this important panel and for the assistance in coordinating tonight's grassroots briefings. As we prepare to return to the Senate floor at 7 p.m., just wanted to make sure that our listening audience knows we want you to know that we are dedicated to bringing resources back to Baltimore that lift up its people and our communities. We will be holding grassroots briefings every Monday starting at 6 p.m. During a legislative session. We have just a few more Mondays left. We hope that you'll join us next week for a conversation with our court officers. Again, just want to say thank you and have a blessed night to everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye, everyone.
For
Thanks.
having-
Senator.